What's a podcast? I like your show.
How did I get here? Welcome to the Shipe Sports Show.
Good evening, sports fans. Welcome to another episode of SST. I am your host, Matthew Shipe, joined always by my co-host and the best producer out there, Paul.
That's right. It's me.
How you doing?
It's Paul. I'm doing great, man.
Awesome. Great to hear. Joined by Mr. Anthony, my awesome co-host. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Chris is not with us. Unfortunately, he had to do something, but I believe he will be joining us in the chat stream, so we'll look for Chris there. Got a big show on hands today. First, we'll talk some college football playoffs, just review who the top four are, who's going to play in those New Year's Eve bowls, which I think is the worst day to play a bowl game, especially with people celebrating, but we'll get to that. After that, fantasy football, stardom, situms, duds, and I will reveal the playoff bracket for the Shipe Sports Talk League, so we'll talk about that. Unfortunately, Anthony won't be a part of that playoff. I think there's like something you have to do if you come in last place. We'll figure that out.
Hey, you know who's going to be in that playoff?
You are Mr. Number One seed.
Oh, no. What happened to my sound effect? Okay, there it is.
Then after that, we're going to talk some NFL, just a quick review of last week's action. And then we'll talk some baseball winter meetings, as we had one of the biggest, I think, trades we've ever had in winter meetings. And this is why I think baseball has the best offseason in any sport, in my opinion. So let's get right into it. College football playoffs, they're set. We have number 1 Alabama versus number 4 Washington, and number 2 Clemson versus number 3 Ohio State. Anthony, what jumps out at you first about this?
Like we talked about the previous week, the biggest thing to me that jumped out was that the number 3 team is Ohio State. Now, hear me out. I understand Ohio State had one loss. I get all that. But what was the point of the title game? And I think it made more sense for Penn State to be in the playoffs because of the fact that head-to-head, they beat Ohio State. So not only were they the champions of their conference, but they beat the team that was in the playoffs that wasn't even in the conference championship game. You know, I just don't understand what the logic was behind it. I get that Ohio State, is a bigger, probably a bigger thing, and when it comes to college football. But Penn State deserved to be in the college playoffs. Washington won their game. Clemson won their game. Alabama won their game. The only team that was idle was, Ohio State, and they stayed in the playoffs. And then they only lost one spot. That's how you know that this stuff is fixed. I don't care what anyone says. These committees have this stuff because what was the point? Why wouldn't Washington jump Ohio State too? They won their conference game.
That's what my problem is right now is how do you have a team who won their conference championship game
still a game behind?
Still fourth. You want to know why?
Because they want Alabama and Ohio State to be the national title game.
How many viewers do you think they would drop off if it's Bama, a rematch of Bama versus Clemson again? Probably wouldn't get too much. Bama,
Can you
Ohio
imagine
State,
if Washington beats Alabama?
I think, you know what? We'll get our predictions.
Yeah.
They have a very good shot. You want to know why? Because Bama struggles when they play against good quarterbacks. They played against Chad Kelly earlier in the year. He gave them some trouble. This quarterback from Washington is no slouch.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like you said, we'll talk about that next week more with predictions. But, I mean, you think about what that could do. I think Penn State should have been the 4 seed. I think Washington should have been the 3. You should have had Alabama versus Penn State, Washington versus Clemson, and those two teams face off. I know Penn State is, I think they're the Rose Bowl, right? They're going to be in the Rose Bowl against USC?
Yep.
Okay, so, I mean, I get that, but I still think they should have been in the consideration here for the national. And I feel like I'd like to see how those votes came down. But that's the thing. Like I said, again, it would have been Penn State. If they would have got 4, they would have knocked Washington out. And that to me, it made no sense that it would have came down to Penn State, their conference champion, getting in, or Washington, their conference champion, getting in, instead of Ohio State, the team that wasn't even in the conference championships, getting in. So.
Now you talk about, USC in the Rose Bowl. My thing right now is that Colorado was in the title game.
Chris made a good point real quick. I just want to make sure before Ohio State beat Michigan, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma, though. Those are all credible wins. But like I said, at the end of the day, no matter what, Penn State not only was their champion, but they won head-to-head. Yep. And Chris last week made that point that they said conference championships will play a role in the decision-making.
I can't believe I'm going to say this team right here. They don't have a conference championship. But Oklahoma, I think, should have been higher than 7. I think they should have actually been ahead of Michigan. They went undefeated in their conference. Now, yes, they lost to Ohio State pretty badly. The thing that killed Oklahoma was that loss to Houston. beginning of the year, it looked like, okay, Houston's going to be a team. Now you look at it, that was a really bad loss. But I think Oklahoma could have been higher than 7, maybe even. I mean, they technically won their championship. They could have been ahead of Michigan at the 6th spot. But I mean, this, like they said, this comes down to, they want the money team, but they don't care about conference championships. Is what now I'm hearing what they wanted. But I think Washington still should have been ahead of Ohio State, and I really think, and I really hope Washington pulls off this upset, just like a couple years ago when Ohio State came in and upsetted Alabama when they were the 1 seed team. So Alabama has lost as the 1 seed, and I want it to happen again.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very realistic chance, like you said, that you could see that. So, again, I like it a lot better that they actually get it to where it's at least 4 teams now, and as opposed to when it was just the 2, and a lot of people would be like, oh, well, this team missed out. At least now you're giving that 2 more teams an opportunity at least for the chance to play for it. So I'm excited to see how that will pan out with those final 4 teams. But my final decision is that I think Penn State should have been in the top 4 since they won, and they won head-to-head. Again, not taking away from Ohio State. They had 1 loss. It was to Penn State, and they had a lot of other credible wins, some big wins, landslide victories at that, but they didn't play for their title. And if they're going to sit there and say that you're going to have, your conference championship come into play, and then it doesn't really, I just don't understand the point of the decision process by the committee.
Yeah. Before we move on to next week, tune into our show next week because we're going to have the entire show. I know we have NFL going on and everything, but the entire show next week will be dedicated our College Bowl Mania special. So tune in next week for that. You'll hear all our predictions about the big games. We'll talk about the schools in our area. Speaking of schools in our area, Virginia Tech will be taking on Arkansas in the Belk Bowl, and Maryland will be in the Quick Loan Bowl up in Detroit against Boston College. So former ACC opponents going at it. So congrats to those 2 schools that made it. Also local, probably about a couple hours away more. West Virginia will be taking on Miami, Florida. Not Miami, Miami, Florida. And I'm pulling up right now. Sorry. The
Russell
Russell
Athletics
Atlantic Bowl. So a couple local teams made Temple up in Philly. They'll be playing in the Military Bowl against Wake Forest. They'll be here at Annapolis, Maryland, the Navy Stadium. Now, funny thing is, I go to that bowl every year. These 2 teams, they don't rattle it for me because I've seen both of them before in this bowl.
Temple, though, man, I mean, they had a dominating
They had a
victory
dominant game against
yeah.
Navy, but for some reason for me, when I've already seen a team before, I know it's different, different coach, different. It's just like, man, I wanted to see someone different,
Yeah.
I was hoping Houston was going to get the bid for that bowl because I would have jumped on those tickets in a heartbeat to see Houston play.
I will, if I can, real quick, I'd like to say my alma mater has a game here that we're going to play in Orlando. UCF plays. I know it's not a big game, but them against Arkansas State, considering they were 0-12 last year, they now have a bowl game this
That's
year.
That's not
so.
fair. That's a home game for them.
Oh, here we go.
It's a home. No, I'm just kidding, man. But congrats to UCF, man. I'm really.
Congrats to Coach Frost, man.
Yep. Speaking of coaching changes, Herman from Houston will now be going over to Texas.
Yeah.
So, and then I think right now, Baylor just lost it. The Temple coach is now going to Baylor. There we go.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
And then
so
Les
good for
Miles
him.
is still waiting out there. So we'll see what happens with him. He could go to Oregon. Who knows?
That's crazy. So good. Yeah.
All right. So we'll talk, like I said, next week. Tune into our College Bowl Mania special show. We're going to review the big bowl games, especially. Give our predictions. Even though it's still on December 31st, still want to talk. Still going to give our predictions next week. So College Bowl Mania special next week. We're going to move on now to fantasy football. And before we do our studs, duds, stardom, and sit-ems, let's talk about the Shipe Sports Talk playoffs. Paul and Graham both have received bye weeks for finishing 1 and 2 respectively. So, Paul, congratulations for the top.
Congratulations, Paul.
We actually had 4
awesome.
teams finish 8 and 5, but Paul finished with the most points. Graham with the second, and then the third most point total. She's really upset right now. My wife finished with the third most total in the lead, but she also finished with the third most total against. So that really what evens it out for you. You can have the most total of 4, but if you let up the points, it's going to kill you. So congratulations to you, Paul.
Thank you.
Third place and taking on our co-host Chris will be our other friend Chris. So we're going to have a Chris versus Chris battle in the first round, and I will be taking on my former host guest I had on the show, Brad. So, see what happens there. So three of the 4 co-hosts are in the playoffs. Thanks a lot for ruining that, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad I can be here to help.
But hey, you know what?
Usually it's beginner's luck, but
Kudos
I
to
guess
Anthony. He finished strong. Got a win at the end of the season, so kudos to him. Good job with that at the end. Hey,
Yeah.
build on for next year, right?
I had a couple wins there at the end. Unfortunately, it was a little too late. Injuries really plagued the team early on.
Speaking of
So,
beginner's luck, I think we could say I had beginner's luck in the league. I joined with you guys, right? First
yeah,
place.
first place. Yeah, I missed the
season.
playoffs in that. That's the first time in 3 years that I'm not going to be in the championship. Never mind in the playoffs.
I was a little upset that you missed because now I'm the only person that made it from our division
Yeah.
because
well,
Zach did not make it. He can't.
Yeah, he was really upset, especially since he actually won his game there at the end against Curley, but Curley still had more points. So.
And he missed it by 20-something points, so that's a shame.
Yeah. And I had more points than both of them. I want the record to show that. I just had more points against me, though, too. If you see, I had more points.
No,
I had a lot of
that's-
points in your league, too. I took bad losses. So,
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to our studs and duds for the week. First, let's just do our dud because we both agreed. The dud this week for all the fantasy and probably already for the entire. He's the dud of the year, Colin Kaepernick. And I think Chris came on last week and said
he was a stud.
he was going to be a breakout guy. Sorry, Chris. 4 passing yards, 5 sacks, 2.16 points from the quarterback position.
Who is that?
Colin Kaepernick from the quarterback position.
Get off that guy. I don't even want to talk about that guy. He's a dud.
He was a dud last week, that's for sure. And I actually think that Chris, did he have him? Chris actually played him last week.
Oh, that's horrible. And he's a free agent. He's going to take his free agency at the end of the year. So good luck to you, buddy.
So let's move on to our stud. I'll go first. My stud of last week was David Johnson of the Cardinals. He had nine receptions for 91 yards. PPR, that's 18 points right there off the bat. 2 total touchdowns and 84 rushing yards for a big 38.5 points. So congrats to David Johnson. Also, shout out to my kicker this week, Matt Prater, 18 points, man.
Oh, how come when I shouted my kicker out, you were like, "Oh, come on"? But now when you do it, it's okay, huh?
Because he won me you ready for this? For my fantasy lead with Chris, the money lead, I made the playoffs by 0.12. 0.12 points got me in the playoffs.
Very nice.
So, Anthony, who is your stud for the week?
My stud is someone that I've mentioned a lot, throughout the season, and it's someone that I have on my team, and I actually had to play him this week because Delaney Walker was on a bye, and it's Dwayne Allen. He only had 4 receptions for 72 yards, but 3 of those receptions were touchdowns. So you got to think, that it's a huge deal, that he got this. How much of this momentum he'll carry, not too sure, but I was very surprised to see him have the game he had.
You know what really, really disappointed me was I played Antonio Gates at tight end, and before the game started at 1, I looked at the waiver wire. I had rolled over Dwayne Allen, and I was like, nope, Doyle's getting all the points. You know who else I rolled over after him?
Who?
Green from Pittsburgh. I was like, you know what? I'll just stay with Gates. Maybe he'll have a good day. If I had went with either of those two, it wouldn't have mattered now, would it, for me?
No.
So let's move on to the start sit-em for the week. I need to pull up who my guys. I picked my guys, but now I totally forgot who they're playing.
If you want, I'll start while you're looking it up.
Go ahead.
You want to do that?
Yeah,
okay,
go ahead and
so
start with quarterback.
Quarterback, I have Matthew Stafford against Chicago. The Lions are continuing to be a team that I think a lot of people are going to underestimate, and I think they're going to have a lengthy run continue, and I think they might make a push in the playoffs. I think the Packers are just a matter of time, though, when the Packers start to wake up. And the last couple of weeks, you've seen them try to, little by little grab back. But I still think the Lions will end up making the playoffs. And my sit-em, I hate to say it, this is probably the second time I've had to do it, but it's Blake Bortles, man, against Minnesota. I love Blake
That's who I
Bortles. He's from UCF, so I got to watch him when I was there, in college, and I liked his. But it's just a terrifying stat to hear that. I don't know if you saw this, Matt, but he has 11 pick six on his career and only 10 career wins. So he has more pick six than career wins. And, a lot of it has to do with, the receivers batting the passes. But I don't know what happened. This is the same guy that last year threw for 31 touchdowns. And now he's barely.
Can we agree, though, this 31 touchdown, he was a big garbage time quarterback.
Yeah, but still, regardless of the fact, he's not doing that now. What happened this year to that? Something has to be going on with the coaching because no player should regress that badly after having that big of a season, especially a young kid like him. So I hope he finds a way to bounce it back next year. But, that's my stardom and sit-em at quarterback. What do you got, Matt?
I'm quickly trying to do my sit-em because I also had Blake Bortles. So let me, you know what? There we go. Crap. All right, my start this week is going to be Kirk Cousins against Philly. For some reason, he always puts up really great numbers, multiple touchdowns against Philadelphia. So I'm gonna go with Kirk Cousins. And my sit-em, you know what? I'm gonna say with your pick in Bortles, man. I really, Minnesota's defense. I mean, I'm looking at the games here. I really can't see no other option but Blake Bortles. Like you said, he's having a horrible year, even with the receivers he's got. So
Yeah, and Marquise Lee's here this year for the most season. He's actually
Oh.
been helping, but
I'm gonna have to go with Bortles, man. I'm sorry. I know I'm taking your little pick there, but
no.
I can't.
When you
find
agree,
one.
man, we agreed on the dud. You got to agree. If it's a good pick to pick, then you make it. You know what I mean? So
I will start with running backs,
Yeah.
and my start of the week will be David Johnson against Miami. Guy's putting up great fantasy numbers this year. I just said he was my star of the week, my stud. I'm gonna say he keeps it going against Miami, and then my sit-em this week, I'm gonna have to go with my own guy, DeMarco Murray against Denver's defense. They have a great defense out there. I still think it's gonna be a hard-fought game. I just can't start Murray this week.
fair enough. I'm running back for start this week. I have Matt Forte against San Francisco. San Francisco really hasn't been doing anything special, and I think with Bryce Petty being named the starter the last 4 games, I think that he's going to have to rely on Forte a lot more. Not only on handing the ball off, but out of the backfield, being a security blanket, on those quick check down passes. So I think Forte will have a big game against San Francisco. And then for my sit-em, I'm going with a Murray, but I'm going with Latavius Murray against Kansas City. I think that this match on Thursday night is going to be a huge matchup between Oakland and Kansas City. I mean, if Oakland wins this game, it's going to go a long way for them. But, if Kansas City does it puts them at a tie, and Kansas City will then be 2-0 against Oakland this season. So that gives them the tiebreaker if it comes down to both of them having the same amount of losses at the end of the season. And not only that, but it makes it that much closer if the Broncos can stay, with another victory, because now they're still only 1 game behind Kansas City, and then they'd be 1 game behind Oakland as well. So could get very interesting in that division to end the season.
All right, move on to wide receivers. I'll let you start.
All right, receiver, I'm going with Mike Evans against New Orleans. New Orleans, time and time again, lets up a lot of points. Their defense just seems like they can't get it done. And Jameis Winston has proven that Mike Evans is by far his number 1 target. So I think that he continues that trend in this game. And then for my sit-em, I'm going to go with the number 1 wide receiver on Miami, Jarvis Landry. Arizona defense hasn't been huge, but their secondary is still, pretty
They're
good. And
studs.
yeah, exactly. So I don't see Landry having a big game. And even when, they've been playing against defenses that are a little bit susceptible to the pass, you haven't really seen Landry having those flashy numbers. So I'm going to go at Landry as my sit-em.
My stardom is going to be Kirk Cousins, one of his wide receivers, and Deshaun Jackson. Whatever
That's a good
reason,
pick.
whenever he plays Philly, he has he balls out against Philly. And matter of fact, he balls out against any NFC East opponent. I think you can agree with that. Some of the games he had against,
Yes.
I'm saying Dallas 2 weeks ago, he had the touchdown.
Yep.
Just something about the NFC
Still
East.
got
where-
elite speed, man.
Something about the NFC East. He brings his game. And my sit-em this week, Alshon Jeffries. Without any, he's going with Barkley now. I just can't see him getting anything going. So Alshon Jeffries. I think if you're going for a playoff run, you got to try to look at other options maybe for the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that.
All right, then we'll go. You got
Tight end. Go ahead. You
tight
start
end. I will start with stardom. Rudolph against Jacksonville. He seems to be a reliable option for Sam Bradford. Set him this week. Bennett from New England against Baltimore. Baltimore's number 1 defense. It just seems like, the beginning of the year, Bennett had a better chemistry with the 4 starting quarterbacks better than he has with Brady. So I'm going to say Bennett this week. Excuse me, it could be a risky option,
Fair enough.
especially with Edelman starting to produce now more.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. You even think without Gronkowski though, he still isn't going to be a credible option.
For some reason, I just don't. I don't
Okay,
know. I don't
that's
know what
fair.
it is. I just feel like without Gronk, he still hasn't been putting up the numbers that he was at the beginning of the season. He sort of even died off. Before like last week. I don't think he put up that much. So
Okay.
and I think Edelman's
That's
starting to become more and more. And Mitchell, the other wide receiver now.
Yeah, he has. come
Mitchell
on in
is
the last
this
couple
year's
weeks.
Brandon LaFell. How LaFell came up big last year. This is Mitchell this year.
Fair enough. At tight end, I know we try not to do the same, but I agree with you. I think Kyle Rudolph's one of the best plays this week at tight end against Jacksonville. Rudolph, again, like you said, he's been a pretty good, target of Sam Bradford's, and I think Jacksonville is not really going to be able to stop that. And then for my sit-em, it's a guy that I picked as my stud of the week. I don't think Dwayne Allen is going to have another big game against Houston. I think that that 3 touchdown performance is going to be just that, a 3-touchdown performance is not going to be something he's going to build on momentum. I think that's.
I gotta hope Houston wins this game.
Yeah, well, you might get what you wish. So Houston might end up winning that game, but I don't think Dwayne Allen, will be the guy to make it happen.
All right, so that's our fantasy focus segment for the week. Start 'em and sit 'ems. Do you have any questions? Because a lot of fantasy playoffs are starting this week. Shoot us an email, shoot us a tweet, Facebook message us, whatever you got to do. We'll answer your questions. So let's get to some NFL news this week. We just had week 13 is gone now. Let's look at some playoff settings. Let's look at some playoffs right now. Cowboys have officially locked up their playoff spot, and I believe they even locked. Yeah, the Cowboys are the only team with the Ets by their name right now that locked up a playoff spot. They're getting very close to, I believe, locking up. I believe if they win this week and you guys lose, I believe they lock up the division, if I'm correct. Yes.
Yeah.
If you lose and they win, they lock up.
I was actually talking to someone. Yeah, because then virtually the Redskins have 5 losses, right? The Eagles have 6.
Yeah, that's
and then
it.
the Giants are the only one that beat them once.
Yep.
And if they would, then they would have 5. They would have their 5th loss. So then they would have virtually.
So
there's no way they could lose
Dallas
it.
win and the Giants loss. They lock up. There's a lot of playoff scenarios.
They're already in
going
the
on.
playoffs, but then they lock up the NFC East, like you said.
And I believe that if Seattle and Detroit both lose, actually take that back. If just Detroit lose, they lock up a first-round bye too. So a lot for Dallas going on this week. Over in the AFC side, if New England wins, Miami loses, New England will lock up the division once again. Look at the AFC South. Not that many good records there, but we have a 3-way tie for first place.
Yeah.
We have Houston, Indy, and Tennessee. The problem with Tennessee is they're 1-3 in the division. Killing them right now.
Yeah, man, you got to think those games at the beginning of the season where they were losing by like seven or less points really could come back and bite them. Yeah.
But you know what? I'm speaking just as a fan here. Sits and sits is a big accomplishment for us.
I was going to say, regardless of the fact, even if you guys, you're building something here. You know what I mean?
Can
There's
get some
something here.
secondary.
Yeah.
But
regardless of the fact they win the division, this isn't a team you're expecting to go deep into the playoffs. Again in the AFC. So
what I'm rooting right now is that Los Angeles loses out, so we can get there a good, maybe a top 5 pick.
There you go. Yeah.
The best division in football right now, I believe, is the AFC West.
Yeah.
Except for the Chargers, you throw out the Chargers, you got Oakland 10-2, Kansas City 9-3, and Denver 8-4. I mean, this division is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they're all, the Chiefs have the last couple matchups. They look like they're getting those wins in the AFC West, which could come up huge for them. But let me ask you that, Matt. Right now, what do you think? Who's your prediction out of the 3 of those to win the division? Not make the playoffs, but who's going to win the division right now with 4 games left in the season?
You know what? I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to say Kansas City. I think they're the best complete team. I think Oakland, they have a good offense. Their defense, I think they still give up points, but they have the offense to counteract that. Kansas City's defense is all around. And Eric Berry, comeback player of the year. Defensive player of the year. This guy's incredible. And Denver, it's the QB, man. The QB situation.
It's rough, yeah. I mean, they got luckily they played Jacksonville last week, and Paxton Lynch was able to be inserted right into the lineup and look pretty good. But again, it's Jacksonville who hasn't.
I mean, you can put anyone.
Yeah, the defense
they need
is
an
good.
Elite quarterback, which is why I've said Tony Romo.
Yeah, it could happen, man. But you got to remember, Tony Romo's 1 hit away from getting injured again. So that's the thing that's on the back, I think, of a lot of people's minds when they go to trade for him.
They're thankful they didn't do that Colin Kaepernick trade they were all talking about.
Oh God.
Thank God for that.
They must have been, yeah. Please. And they ended up trading for Sanchez, but that didn't work out too well either.
Yep. So I mean, that's our whole rundown this week. I mean, really tight divisions. In the North, the AFC North, Baltimore and Pittsburgh tied right now. The big thing helping Baltimore is they're 4-0 in the division. So that's I think they play each other again. To be honest with you,
I think they have one more game.
But here Baltimore finishes New England, Philly, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. So that could be a tough stretch for Baltimore. And Pittsburgh finishes up with. Oh man, messes up for me. I hate when it does that.
While you're looking that up, let me ask you: if Oakland wins Thursday night against Kansas City, do you still keep your prediction that Kansas City wins the division?
I think the winner of this game Thursday wins the division.
Okay, you don't think there's any way Denver gets ahead of both of them, right?
No.
I don't see that happening.
And
either,
Pittsburgh has Buffalo, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Cleveland. So Pittsburgh can easily go 3-1 in those games.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you 100%. I'm excited to see how the division pans out, and I'm hoping that.
You know what? The game between Baltimore and Pittsburgh will probably be for the division.
Yeah, I think all 3 teams from the AFC West are making the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's me.
Yeah, that's why I said Tennessee's got to do something.
Yeah.
If they win this week now, I think actually, you know what? You say that. Still got to look out for Miami. They're still hanging in there.
Yeah.
Let's go to the playoff race real quick. I mean, so got Miami hanging there 7-5. So Miami needs Titans to win this week to bring down Denver again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
they're
got-
definitely they're rooting for it. So it's gonna be a tight. We're gonna have a lot to talk about in the next couple of weeks with the wild card. I didn't realize how close it was in both divisions. On the NFC side, like teams like I wasn't, I seen Tampa Bay building, win after win the last couple of weeks. Tampa Bay's right there, I think, for their division still too, because Atlanta lost last week. So it's gonna be interesting to see how both sides of the field, in the playoffs pan out.
Speaking of divisions, Carolina, have fun watching the playoffs from your couch this year.
Yeah, man, I can't believe that, especially with getting back frickin' Benjamin.
I want to say this: their defenses suffer. Who are they missing on the defense besides Luke Kuechly? Josh Norman made a difference, and I bet you they're regretting not paying that man. You think they're kicking themselves?
Yeah, no.
Their secondary's young.
The thing that I still don't understand today, you had him tendered. Why did you just let him walk for free? Keep him tendered and try and trade him. Why do you let someone walk for free with that kind of talent, man?
And Norman's not playing, and Norman is showing it wasn't the system because he's not playing too bad. He's shutting down
Yeah, no.
what he was supposed to do. Like Des Bryant, I owned him. Dude, you only caught 33 yards worth of passes. So he's doing what he did in Carolina in man. Like, it's not just was zone. He's doing what he's doing in man.
Yeah.
And I think this was great for him because he's branching himself out, showing he's still a top 3 cornerback in this league.
No, I agree with you 100%.
And I'm happy he's doing well in a different system. So, real quick before we go to baseball, Tiger Woods made his return to golf this week. I'm a huge Tiger Woods fan. He shot the best round he's shot in, I think, in the last 3 or 2 years on Tuesday. I believe he shot like a 60. Got to find it. Here it is. Excuse me real quick.
Excuse me real quick. Huh.
No, I lost it. But, yeah, he shot like the best round he's had all year, or the past couple years. Here it is. I got it right here. Yeah, he shot a 65 on the second round. But the other rounds he shot in the 70s. But for Tiger Woods, he finished all 4 rounds. Wasn't hurt. -4. He finished tied, way down because it was only an 18-person field. But for him to go out and shoot a 65 the second day really shows that he's developing. It's the first time he looked healthy in almost 3 to 4 years. He looks comfortable out there. So I think he has like the 8th best odds now to win the Masters. So hopefully he keeps playing good, and hopefully he's put all these injuries behind us because they asked him when they first started to come back, they asked him, they said, look, so what are your goals for the majors now? What's your win total? He said, what's Jack at? They said, well, he still has 18. I want 19. He still wants that record. That's what he wants. He wants that on his legacy. And I tell you what, he beats Jack's record. I can't see anyone right now beating it. Him.
No. And you gotta think, like him or not, you gotta think he's, great for the sport. He's great for the sport, yeah.
If you get a final round at a major and let's say you have Tiger, Spieth, Tiger, McIlroy, Tiger, Phil, Tiger, DJ in like a final group or in the final 3, people are going to watch golf. I don't care what people say about these young guns. You put Tiger Woods in the final 3 on the day of a major, you're going to get viewers.
Yeah.
And I said it last year when they had the Phoenix Open where Tiger was his first tournament in like a couple months. He wasn't in on Sunday. He withdrew. You have him there on Sunday, and the NFL Super Bowl preview show where it's nothing but just singing and people talking. Phoenix Open gets more viewers just leading up to Super Bowl because it's Tiger Woods. That's what people care about. It's Tiger Woods.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
All right, so now let's move on to the biggest thing of today is baseball winter meetings, and we probably had one of the biggest trades I think we've had in a while.
Yes.
With Chris Sale, 27 years old, 5-time All-Star, which means he's been
still
All-Star.
3 years under contract.
Yep. Moved to not the Nationals.
Boston Red Sox.
Boston Red Sox.
So he went from the White Sox to the Red Sox.
The Red Sox trade away top prospect Moncada and Kopech, the top 2 in their
He was a top 5 prospect
Yep.
on, yeah. But Moncada's the number 1 prospect in all of baseball.
Yep. The thing is, they got him. I think I've read where they got him from another trade, so he really wasn't them to begin with. But the Nationals at last night looked like they were going to get Sale. It was like it was a done deal, but the Red Sox pushed more on the table, and the Nationals are telling everyone. I think from what I heard was the White Sox were trying to push for Turner. The Nationals said, "Look, Trey's untouchable. You can't touch him." And then I think they wanted Giolito and Lopez, and they're like, "Look, you can't have both." You can take Giolito in our top, outfielder prospect. Can't have Lopez and Giolito, and the Red Sox pushed it out. And then, did you hear the rumor just came out
What's
that
that?
the White Sox, one of their people leaked that the Nationals were getting close, and they
So
said
it
it was
forced the
hopefully
Red
they were going
Sox
to force
hand.
the
Yep.
Red Sox to do more, and the Red Sox did more. So
Yeah,
I know you can rub it in my face. You're happy because you don't have to face
No.
that rotation now.
I don't necessarily want to rub it in your face. Obviously, as a Mets fan, I'm happy to see that we don't have to face Chris Sale that many times a season. But I think it ultimately came down to the Red Sox. I talked to a lot of my friends that are Red Sox fans, and it came down to the fact that they didn't see the potential. What they saw from Mancata, right? Is that how you say it? Is that right? They had him up last year, and they sent him back down. They didn't see it, and the Red Sox are a team that are going to go out and win now. They're going to keep building prospects. Look at that outfield they have that they built. That's all them,
It's almost like
Betts,
people
Bradley.
are taking the model of what the Cubs did last year, of this win now mentality.
I think that's what they thought. They're like, how are we going to beat the Cubs if we get to the World Series? We need Chris
Did you
Sale.
hear what Brian
We need a
Cashman
lefty.
called them?
What did he call them?
The Warriors of baseball. So, in terms of local news, the Nationals, where do they go now? I think now they've turned their attention back to Andrew McCutchen, and they're still working with the White Sox. I
Do you
believe
take
they're trying
Gio
to
off the table now
Huh?
of being traded? Do you take Gio off the table of being traded now that you're not getting Sale?
Yes, I think you have to take Gonzalez off the table, but you
Okay.
can still. But the thing is, yeah, you're right. Yep. They moved their attention back to Andrew McCutchen, but they've also turned their attention to closer. Now that they have Sale off, you don't have to pay that money. Do they go out and try to get Chapman or Jansen? Or there's rumors that they're still talking to the White Sox about David Robertson, who was a pretty damn good closer past couple of years. The only problem is his ERA is high.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about Chapman. Who did Chapman start his career with? Who was his manager? Who moved him to a closer?
Dusty.
There you
in
go.
Cincinnati. Yep.
Dusty. And I tell you what, Dusty, I'm pretty sure wants him, but can you give Chapman 6 years? That's what he wants.
Yeah, I think I saw that he wants that 6 year. I think the best, if you do give him it's got to be one of those front-loaded contracts, and then you do options for the last couple seasons, because to give a closer, nothing against Chapman, I think he's a great pitcher, but he's not. I don't think he's going to be throwing 100+ miles per hour for the next 6 seasons.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who almost blew Game 7 of the World Series?
Yeah, but they were overusing him, man.
Oh, yeah, I know, I agree with that.
They were pitching a guy that pitches 100+ miles 1 inning a game, 3.1 innings. I think they were trying to get more out of him than they should have, and I think that eventually showed.
Real quick, I just want to get back to one quick thing to fantasy. Chris asks, who's the best defense to pick up for fantasy playoffs?
You got to think the Ravens, the Chiefs. Those are two teams that
I'm
jump
gonna go
off
to my
to me
leagues.
immediately.
I'm gonna go to one of my playoff leagues, and then I'll tell you who's there. And you,
Yeah, take
I
a
know.
look
I'm
at
sorry,
that while you're thinking.
sorry, everyone.
But
Going back to fantasy, but
I think
like to
Ravens
help
and the
the
Chiefs
fans.
are two teams immediately that jump
Cardinals
off
are
to
out
me.
there. Cardinals.
They're
Houston.
susceptible. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a couple different teams, but to me, I think Ravens, Chiefs, and then I agree the next couple, you go with those two teams that you
The
mentioned.
Ravens, Chiefs are probably already on teams. That's the thing.
Oh, well, he's saying go with them. Is he necessarily saying off the waiver wire? Because, I mean, I don't even think you're going to find any of those teams you just mentioned on the waiver wire.
That's why I said on the waiver wire. You have teams like Arizona's out there, Dallas, Houston. So maybe one of those, Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So look at one of those. So back to baseball.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little thing with you as a Mets fan. Is Harper worth $400 million for 10 years?
Man, I've had this conversation with a lot of people when it comes to these contracts that you see these high average annual, values. I don't think anyone should get $40 million a season. His hair's worth $40 million a season.
Saw that? That was pretty good.
Yeah. All joking aside, Harper's going to get the big contract. Does he get 10? Me as a Mets fan, I don't know about you as a Nationals fan watching him. He has not played that well this past
Just
season. He had a down
last year,
season.
he was worth $400 million.
This year, he didn't really look like all that good. Not saying he's not still worth a big contract, but I don't know if I would give him $40 million and set that precedent, because if you set that precedent for him, not saying Murphy's worth it, but if Murphy outplays him, what makes Murphy think he shouldn't get a big contract? You know what I mean? If that's the precedent you're setting, obviously Harper is a completely different level of player, but I'm saying if you look at stats just on your team alone, how do you pay someone that got outplayed by you, 2 times as much as what you're making, or 3 times almost in Murphy's case, and so it makes 15 a
Did you see what the New
year.
York Post came out with this week?
No, I didn't.
They had a
Unfortunately,
picture in their sports session of Harper and Machado both in Yankee uniforms.
Dude,
Did you hear
gotta
what
think,
their ultimate goal was?
What's
In
that?
2018, they were going to go after Harper, Machado. Sadly, he's not with us anymore, but they wanted Jose Fernandez. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And they could have done it if they wanted to.
That's a shame about that, still, man. That's rough.
Can you imagine if he was still alive and the Yankees got all three of those players?
The Yankees are going to get to there again, and that's what I just. That's why one of the signings they made. Why did they sign Matt Holliday to a 1-year, $13 million deal? That guy can't hit anymore.
It's just 1 year. There you go. Just
Yeah, but $13 million. They could have got Beltran. They could have got
They-
whatchamacallit too. Another guy that signed.
Pierce. Trombones out there.
Trumbo, exactly. A guy like Trumbo.
Oh, they're speaking of outfielders, Nationals. Another, if you don't get McCutcheon,
McCutcheon, yeah.
Fowler's still out there.
I like
I
Fowler.
think
He's
their
asking for
ultimate
16,
goal
17 a
is
season.
to
I
get
heard.
a center fielder and move Turner back to short and Ian Desmond just to go back to
Yeah.
a bench role because his bat killed us.
We will mention too. You did get a catcher. I mean, not anything flashy, but
They're
you did trade for a
still
catcher.
talking about getting Matt Wieters. That's the funny
Yeah,
thing.
but at least you have a catcher
Yeah,
now
Norris.
in house without Ramos. So you did have somebody. You already addressed that need. At least if you can't get something bigger, so you addressed that need. I still think you guys need another. You're going to want someone else on the pitching
we need
side.
a closer now that we lost ours.
Yeah, you definitely need a closer. I would like to see how they're going to. I think they might end up getting a trade. I think that's how they'll end up doing it because I think that you guys are not going to spend the money, and I don't blame the Nationals, front office for Chapman, and I don't think necessarily that Jensen. They're saying the Marlins are big on him, so.
Well, the Marlins went all in a couple years ago, and it didn't work out well for them.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We'll see how they end up playing it out, but yeah, no, the winter meetings have been good so far. Obviously, the Red Sox, you got to think of the big winners because they not only they also traded for a relief pitcher from the Brewers. But they had to trade one of their prospects that was playing third base, Shaw, who was pretty good for them last year.
Well, they're trying to trade for Mitch Moreland.
Yeah, they're not done. The Red Sox are not near done. They know they have to rebuild. They have to rebuild, not rebuild, I should say, but they need to find someone to replace
Ortiz.
Poppy. And one of my friends made a great point. Dombrowski is in the front office there. That's the old Tigers GM. Do you think maybe he pulls something to trade for Cabrera? He said that it's available for trade, and the Red Sox are showing you that they're not any lack of prospects. So, is that something maybe they talk about doing?
We'll have to take a look at it and see what happens.
Yeah.
So, I just posted on Twitter. I meant to post on the Shipe Sports Talk, but I have so many Twitters now because of all our shows. I put on the OT3 Twitter page. I got to take that off. I guess just stay tuned for us. We'll be posting updates on Twitter. We'll be posting updates on Facebook of all the winter meetings, and I think that's going to wrap us up today. Paul,
Yeah.
it's on you, buddy.
Thank you, sir. So if you do want to tweet the Shipe Sports Talk, you know where to do it. It's just at Shipe Sports Talk. It's not that hard. Just do it. Tweet us. Tweet us what you think about the upcoming playoffs. Tweet us. Yeah, I've never been a big fan of the way college picks their playoffs or whatever. Anyway, just to put my 2 cents in. That's always been
Paul,
crap. Anyway, right. So at Shipe Sports Talk, at Shipe Sports Talk, at Shipe Sports Talk. That's where you can tweet us. For Facebook /Shipe Sports Talk, give us a like and follow the page. And on YouTube, you can just search Shipe Sports Talk, and you'll find us. Go ahead and subscribe. Give us a like on the episodes that you like. Comment. And keep us active. Share it to all your friends, everybody on the chat room. Thanks for joining in. Sorry, Caesar. He wanted to know what he's feeling bad because he what did he miss?
Yeah,
he missed the recap.
But
right?
what he could do is go back and watch us on YouTube.
That's
Yeah, please
true.
do.
Subscribe.
Great
That's
plug.
True. That's true. So thanks everybody for joining. Thanks everybody for participating. We love it. We'd love to hear from you. So Caesar, you're the man. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Caesar.
Also, watch OT3 on Monday as we preview WWE Roadblock. And also, I just posted on our Facebook, College Bowl Mania Pick'em is back for Shipe Sports Talk. Compete against myself, Chris, Anthony, Paul. See if you know more about college football than we do, even though we try to say we're experts.
Yeah, definitely air quote that one more time.
That's Tuesday.
Well,
Get
no, he
ready.
has that hawk thing right behind him, so he definitely is an expert.
That's my
It's an eagle.
I
Or
need
no,
to get-
what did he
I
tell
need
us
to-
yesterday? It was a turkey?
big ass turkey. Next week, Shipe Sport Talk. We'll talk more winter meetings real quick, but the next week, our big College Bowl Mania special show, because college bowl games start next week. So tune in next Thursday between 7 next Thursday, next Tuesday between 7 and 7:15. We always get the start times within there for our College Bowl Mania special. If you love college football, gotta watch it. We'll preview all the local teams. Anthony will preview. I'm putting him on the spot. He can preview UCF and their opponent, and then
Alright, I
we'll
got you.
get our
Arkansas
prediction
State.
for the college football playoffs. So for myself, Paul,
Matt, real quick before you sign off, I wanted to say we didn't mention it. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I feel like we should. Derek Jeter, I know we're not any of us are Yankee
Yes.
fans, but he will have his number retired, and the Yankees will have number 1 through 10 officially retired. So no one can ever wear the numbers 1 through 10 on
you know what?
the
He
New York
deserves to be
Yankees.
immortalized.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so yeah, I wanted to mention that before we got off, but yeah, he definitely deserves it. I'm not a Yankees fan. I got to watch that last game where he got that final hit, and
That was awesome. I
even me,
watched it on TV.
yeah, it was such a great feeling for him to get that walk-off hit in his final game. But sorry to cut you off, Matt.
That's fine.
I'll let you get right
Caesar
back to
put in
it.
the chat, go Knights, which is the mascot for UCF as he goes there now. So once again, for myself, Paul, Anthony, and Chris in the chat for not being here. Thanks, Chris, but thank you for joining us in the chat. And for everyone in the chat room, thank you for joining us. Have a great evening and good night.
See
Good
ya.
night, everybody.
Nationals now. Going after another starter.